Hello everyone! Today we're gonna talk about how much money you should spend on Genshin Impact. Money can buy you a lot of things like Primo Gems, constellations, weapons, or a ridiculously large summary of Tartaglias. And with enough money you can even buy a giant palace just so you can drop it on some random water snake. But money is not infinite and we only have so much of it. And how much is responsible to spend on Genshin Impact? And how much will you get back if you spend money on Genshin Impact? We will be uncovering that in this video today. Now let's talk about something called return of investment. I will visualize this through this beautiful graph. And this graph visualizes how much more fun you might get out of spending money on Genshin Impact. Now, when you start off as a free-to-play, you make almost no Primo Gems and have to use in-game means like dailies and events to get all of them. Now, buying a Welkin Moon or a Battle Pass really increases the weekly or monthly amount of Primo Gems you obtain and thus enables you to unlock more characters, and characters give you much more layers of gameplay. And because of this, your fun will definitely increase because new characters is really interesting. Now, if you go above that, the more characters you start unlocking, the more variety you get, but also you start getting favorites, and some characters you start maybe using less, as you can only use 8 in Abyss, and you have to use different teams for different Abyss weeks, but having all the characters might lead to some being abandoned and you appreciating them a little less. You can also then spend on weapons. Now weapons are cool because they give you another gameplay layer. For instance, the pole star, where you have to stack the weapon to obtain optimal damage. But these are not as fun as unlocking a new character. Now lastly, there's constellations. I think constellations are simply not really necessary for most of the characters, and definitely the later constellations start really chugging into your wallet, and at this point you will be purchasing the €100 pack constantly to try to get higher constellations. I think if you have reached this point, the money spent has a lot lower return of fun. Now that we know what kind of fun you can get from spending money on Genshin Impact, I think it's good to quickly talk about what kind of money you should spend. You should only spend disposable income on Genshin Impact. Things like food, drink, of course take priority, but also let's say you can spend $50 on Genshin Impact, or you can spend a day out with friends or go to a restaurant. Definitely if you don't have a very large amount of disposable income, I would recommend not spending money on Genshin Impact, as any form of life experience is probably more worth it. Also, if you're on the younger side, please consider some saving. There are channels like Graham Stepan who do great videos on how you can handle your own finances. But how does Genshin get you to spend more money than you might have originally intended? The gacha system is simply designed to be predatory and to take as much money from you as the player as they can. It keeps tempting you to think, maybe in the next temple I might get the character, and you also have to handle with a 50-50 system, so you will always be on your toes if you will be getting the character or not. It is also extremely hard to plan ahead for new banners, as they sometimes don't really get announced months before the patch but only weeks. And the weapon banner and constellations also add on top, where if you have a character like the Raiden Shogun, if you would want to fully unlock her true power, you kind of need the second or third constellation to really hit those massive ult smacks. And if you enjoy playing Raiden Shogun, this might be extremely tempting and might cause you to pull a lot on this banner. As you might enjoy it for a week, but then you're trying to get more power. And this power can most easily be obtained by pulling more copies of the character. Or you might farm artifacts, but you want energy refreshes, which also translate into spending money. It is important to know how Genshin is trying to make you pull out your wallet as fast as possible, and try to avoid these things by planning ahead and not falling for the temptation of the gacha or the chance to maybe get a character. And now, after all this wisdom, how I just completely fell for the Genshin Impact monetization model. When the Raiden Shogun was announced after Inazuma's release, I was really hyped and really started to play a lot more Genshin Impact again. Of course, when she came out, I pulled for her with the Primo Gems I obtained through dailies and exploring the game. But after a while I started to feel a little bit of a lack of power. And I was reading a lot on the internet about how Raiden was just not good if you did not have C2. So I started to get in a bit of an echo chamber thinking, oh, you really need C2 to have a good Raiden. And thus I started buying a Welkin Moon, then a 20 or 30 euro pack, and slowly scaled up into trying to get more Raidens. Unfortunately my luck wasn't there and I needed 180 pulls to get to C1, and at that point I was too far in and bought the 100 euro pack to try and lock in a C2 Raiden. With all this wailing behind me, the barrier of purchasing Primo Gems in Genshin Impact was now lowered for me, and for the next months it was easier to spend more money on Genshin Impact, and thus I went over the amount I originally intended to spend on the game. But it still feels like I just fell for the monetization. I would like to warn you about seriously thinking about spending any money before you buy those Primo Gem packs. And honestly, I would advise you to just stick by purchasing the Welkin Moon, if any, because it's the best value by a long shot. So to conclude, Genshin Impact is a free game and it can be completely experienced without spending anything. I would recommend just spending a little, and remember, Genshin Impact is free and so is the art.